I think I just like Westerns and like dumbass men. Hey, it's Ellie. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. And here is a show I did not think I was going to make a video on. But then I remember this tweet I made a couple of days ago right before starting Trigun. And now here we are. This show was not at all what I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was just going to be a silly little space western in the vein of Cowboy Bebop. But much like Cowboy Bebop, after like the 10th episode, it just, everything goes to the wolves. To the wolves. Everything just goes to the wolves. It's insane. And the insanity is driven up to like 11. And I want to talk about it today because Trigun, Cowboy Bebop is very camp in its own way, but Trigun is camp in a way that I haven't seen in a show in so long, and I have to talk about it today. So if at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe because I make videos like this all the time. And comment down below if you watch this reboot kind of retelling with Trigun Stampede, or if you watch the original, if you've read the manga, if you've done all three, one or the other, whatever. Let me know down in the comments below. Let's start a conversation. And let's jump into it. This show is goofy. And I do mean goofy with a capital G. Like, it is extremely camp and the physical aesthetics don't barely begin to even scratch the surface. Speaking of, on the surface, Trigun actually is a lot like Cowboy Bebop in the sense of aesthetics. It's a space western, except instead of space, Trigun is mostly post-apocalyptic space western, but then the space comes like a couple of like 10 episodes later. That's when the space come in, because I was really like, this is under the category of space western, but I'm about 10 episodes in and we're not in space. So I don't understand what's happening. But then you get to the backstory part, which we'll cover in a second, and that is all like space westerny. So that's why it's considered a space western, even though the space and the post-apocalyptic and the technology, you see what I'm saying here? It's got the same vibes. So that mostly is the reason why it's considered a space western. Same vibes. A weird world filled with weird characters in a setting that has a deep backstory that everyone alludes to, but no one actually explains. And when it is, it's like this biblical thing, always biblical, always with angel. I don't know what it is about 80s and 90s animes that like are a little dramatic, a little funny, but if you don't got some biblical references with some angel wings in it, like that was, spoiler, very end of the show, final battle, angel wings out of nowhere. I'm not going to explain anything further than that, but angel wings, I was very confused. Where did the angel wings come from? To this, I'm like literally thinking back on it. I still don't know. I don't know where the angel wings came from. I'm not complaining. It fits the aesthetic so much, and maybe that's just the reason why it just fit the aesthetic. But like, I have yet to finish Neon Genesis Evangelion, and one of the reasons is because of this like biblical references, and I know I need to be in the right mind space to like have that. In this case, this is like a workup to that because it's mostly funny for like most of the time, and then it gets really dramatic towards the end. The Trigun Trigun really is like an ease into that biblical craziness that a lot of 80s and 90s animes have for some reason. Like, I genuinely want to know the historical context of that. Like, if anybody knows, comment down below. What is the historical context of a bunch of 80s and 90s animes having like a bunch of biblical references, or like the drama animes? What is with them and having biblical references? I want to know. I want to know. So let me know if you know in the comments. There's always like a dead girlfriend or some type of lover that got left behind, that died, that made the main character so cynical about life and XYZ ABC, except in this case, it's Vash's like babysitter and caretaker, and that was his first love, which is fine. But like, also, was it that serious? Like, I was like, is it that serious? But then I realized his brother literally is like a supervillain, like a textbook supervillain. And I go, yeah, actually, it kind of was that serious. All of these types of shows start off so normal and chill, and you're just vibing. You're vibing with the aesthetic. You're vibing with the humor. You're vibing with all of it. And then boom, out of nowhere, you're just hit with like, oh, time for you to question your life and everything that stands on you. Again, that's why I really haven't finished Neon Genesis Evangelion. Trigun is such a dip into the water, though. It's so slow. It's such a slow burn. The original Trigun is such a slow burn that you don't even notice you're in it until, again, they're pulling out biblical references. What is with the angel wings? So here's my half-assed attempt at summarizing the plot with minimal to little spoilers in case you are wondering what this show is about. Also, this is the one time I will allow you some some of you to correct me in the comments. This is the one time I will allow correction in the comments, because even after watching both Trigun and Trigun Stampede, I am still a little bit confused on the backstory, which we'll get to later about the differences between Trigun and Trigun Stampede and why I think that you should really be watching both and not one or the other, because I feel like one explains, we'll get to all that. But here is my summary of the plot. Feel free to abridge it in the comments. So the humans fuck up Earth, duh. So then humans send their DNA. This is the part that confuses me. Humans send their DNA or clones of themselves. Either way, the rest of the humans that they're gonna go start a new life in space. We've seen this all before. Hypergenic freeze to like go start a new life off in space. Why am I thinking of in space with Markiplier? Do you think Markiplier was Trigun? Do you think Markiplier was inspired by Trigun? Though that whole thing of like putting the rest of the human race in a cryogenic freeze until we find a planet that is habitable is like not new. That's not a new concept, but I just like, I don't know. Now I'm thinking. Anyway, let me go watch In Space with Markiplier again. Anyway. So yeah, my issue is though, they leave these ships. There's like hundreds of these ships, right? With the rest of humanity on them. And in the original Trigun, they leave it to like 5 crew members. Five crew members. And now I don't know if they had this like rotation system where they wake people up out of sleep, debrief them, and then let them take the reins for like the next couple of years, and you're on this rotation system. That would seem smart, because fuck if I'm gonna sit here and lead humanity to salvation and lead them to a new habitable planet. Why do I have to do that? And then I get to grow old and die on this fucking ship, and I don't get to see humanity grow. I would be pissed off. Anyway, so 5 people, one of them is a huge creep, but secretly 2 of them are a huge creep. But anyway, there's 3 dudes, and 2 girls. One of those girls is Rem. Rem is the caretaker for Vash and Knives. Hey, why did you name him Knives? You wanted him to turn into a supervillain? Why did you name him Knives? Vash is a weird name too, but at least it's unique. Why did you name him Knives? And then you are surprised when he turned out the way that he turned out. Anyway, there's a point in the original where I think the like head honcho commander dude is like, oh, I'm not fit to take care of children. You are so good, Rem. You are so motherly and whatever, and you can take care of these children. I'm not fit to take care of these children. And I just remember staring at the screen going, yeah, you're not fit to take care. No, you're not. You're not fit to take care. You're scientists. You are a military commander and some scientists. None of you are equipped to handle children. And you are simultaneously, Rem fed too much into both of their egos, especially Knives. Fed way too much. You're special. You okay, girlie? You are special. You're different. You are plants. This, that, the third, da-da-da-da-da. Feeding their ego. And then you have the creep, whose name is Steve, because of course it's Steve, who thinks that they are the devil incarnate and are horrible and not even below human beings. So you have all of that mixed together. What do you think that's gonna make? A god complex? I think it's gonna make a god complex, and then wonder why Knives does the things that he does. Ship crash lands onto the planet. And Rem sacrifices herself in order for the rest of humanity to live, and she directs all the ships to go back on course. They land on a desert planet that is very arid and not really good for life. However, they have these machines, and this is where the sci-fi space western element comes into play. They have these machines called plants that have plants in them. I know, clap it up. Yeah, I just thought of that one too. These beings that are pretty much like Vash and Knives, and they have extraordinary power, and they're powering the plant. And no one, if Vash and Knives can be raised as human beings and have a conscience and soul, and you treat them as human beings, what does that say about all of the plants that you are using to power these cities that are trapped in these like bubble things? Does that get talked about in the manga? Because I'm really confused on why that is not an ethical dilemma in any shape or form. Knives kind of brushes on it in Stampede. He talks a little bit about it in Stampede, about how these are like our brothers and sisters that they are using, and we are so above them, and blah, 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 blah. But for the most part, it's not really expanded upon that, like, because it's not like, you know, a water source, you know, something that doesn't have life. It's like this organic being that has a consciousness. So all right, I'm just saying, Knives' motivations make sense more and more the more I think about it. But yes, they land on this desert planet and humanity has to basically rebuild itself. Hence, the entire theme of the show, both of the shows, is the kind of survivability of humanity, which I'm not gonna lie, I am a sucker for that. I am a sucker for anything that has to do, like The Last of Us and like all that stuff, anything that has to do with like the sheer willpower of humanity and humanity being able to pick up the pieces and form some type of society. I don't know, that kind of just makes me hopeful for society, I guess you could say, even though both are post-apocalyptic and a lot of the people aren't great people, but hopeful. Still hopeful. But yes, that is how we get this Western setting. There's a couple of other things too that I wish were a little bit more explained in the show, but I'm assuming that it gets explained in the manga. I have not read the manga. I've watched both shows, but I have not read the manga, though it is on my list. It is on my list of things to do. All of the backstory that I just explained doesn't even come in until about halfway through the original season. In Stampede, it's right off the bat, which I loved. I thought that it was really interesting to see both shows kind of tackle the backstory. In Stampede, right off the bat, you're getting an explanation for everything, which I think is good because there's only like 12 episodes so far. There's going to be a next season, but there's only 12 episodes so far. So explaining the backstory is like kind of important. And I definitely think Stampede is more like sci-fi in that route and less of a Western. Whereas like the original Trigun is definitely more of a Western and more dramatic, like the original Western style, like not just Western in its setting, but also Western in like the actual narrative style. Like the narrative style of a Western is very melodramatic, and that fits very much. And so what makes Trigun special to me, the original Trigun, is having like the drama, Western drama, all that stuff, and then having like this sparkle of like old technology, which is really like futuristic technology, and finding out slowly, like I said, they ease you into it, that this is a post-apocalyptic like wasteland. That is not something that I caught on to until like the 4th episode, when like that is not something that I caught on to until like the 4th episode or whatever, when there's cars and then also Vash is listening to music. Like that is like one of the things that like just caught me off guard. The man is like listening to like an MP3 player, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? Where are we? What is happening right now? And I was like, oh, is this the space Western part? And so I didn't even clock that it was really post-apocalyptic until like way after the fact, once we started to talk about like the plants and stuff like that. And I was like, oh. And so I think Trigun does a really, really good job easing you into all of that. And Trigun Stampede almost works off of the knowledge that you got all of that drama in the first one, and now in Stampede we're gonna focus more on the sci-fi elements of it, which I think was great because that's what I wanted more of in Trigun and the original Trigun. I wanted more of the sci-fi elements and more of an explanation, and you get more of a straightforward explanation because you know 80s and 90s animes never ever will give you a straightforward explanation. It's always just metaphors, biblical references, quotes, which like is great for an aesthetic and a tattoo that you want on your body. But if I'm trying to understand the story, I sometimes you just need to tell it to me straightforward. And that is what Trigun Stampede is for, which is why I say like you should watch both, because both offer like the drama and stuff in one, and then like the explanation and sci-fi fantasy coolness in the other. So I'm gonna quickly go over the characters. Let's start with Wolfwood. When I heard that name and saw that face, I don't know. I mean, this was the same for Vash too, but I'm saving Vash for last. Just the face does not match the personality. And like I was fully expecting some bad boy, I don't know, I guess Sasuke-esque type that's like super serious about his craft and being a priest. And I thought that, and instead I got Reagan, who knows how to shoot a gun. That's what I got. If Reagan knew how to shoot a gun, that's that. He's like low-key a con man, at least in the original Trigun. He's like low-key a con man, kind of only worried about like money, at least in the beginning. And his story took such a sharp turn. I was not expecting at all. If you watch the shows or the manga or whatever, his story takes such a sharp turn when you wasn't. I was literally, you could go on my Twitter. I live tweet a lot of the shows that I watch in a thread, and in that thread you can see me go Wolfwood in all caps, and then like the little gif from like Euphoria that goes, bitch, you better be joking. Like it was a genuine like surprise. Like it was like one of those OG kind of like plot twist that I just wasn't expecting. I'm not gonna say anything more than that, because if you haven't watched it, I genuinely want this to be a video that makes you go to watch the show. I don't want it to be just like, oh, let's talk about the plot type of video. Maybe in another time, in another video, maybe when the second season of Stampede comes out. But I want this to literally be you going to go watch the show. So I'm not gonna try and do that many spoilers, but that his story took such a sharp turn, and in Stampede it also kind of takes a sharp turn. Like there's more backstory for him in Stampede, which is great. This is really literally my reaction. I was like, oh my god, yes, more wolfwood backstory. Oh my god, I love it. Oh no, more wolfwood backstory. Like tears in my eyes, damn. What a character. Honestly, what a character. Like, I literally thought that Wolfwood was going to be this, like, crazy foil to Vash. And in a way, he is. But they just share one brain cell. They are low-key two sides of the same coin. Like, that's really more of what it is. It's less of, like, a Naruto Sasuke foil to each other. And more of just, like, these two share the exact same brain cell. They just have slightly different morals, and not even slightly different morals if you really, really look deep into it. But again, I'm not going to say anything other than that. Let's talk about my girl. Let's talk about my girl, Meryl. First of all, Meryl Millie. Millie is not in the second season. In Stampede. She's not in Stampede, which is... It's tragic, really. It's tragic. I loved Millie. She was a sleeper hit for me. We talk about like old animes. Sometimes a lot of women in old animes tend to fall into these kind of like tragic character structure. She did not. Meryl and Millie did not. Oh, Meryl and Millie did not. My girl Meryl, I love the slow burn of her starting to fall for Vash. That is not really a spoiler. That's just what happens. It's not necessarily a spoiler. It's just what happens. It's not like they get together in the end or anything like that. It's probably like heavily implied, but like it's not like, oh, their romance is such a big part of it. It's more of like falling for him as a person. Not necessarily romantically, though that is obviously heavily hinted at. It's more of just falling for him, Vash, as a person, and her, like, a lot of what Trigun is in the beginning is like trying to understand Vash as a person and as a character, especially given the circumstances of the world that they live in. Vash is a pacifist, and he does not fight. He does not want to fight. He believes that he can save everybody, and obviously that comes with its own pros and cons and his own character development. But for people who, you know, were born into this world, this wasteland, and, you know, didn't get all of the fluffy stuff that, you know, Rem taught him as a kid, they are very much so under the impression of like, there's no helping this world. There is no helping this world. We just gotta live through it. We just gotta survive. And Meryl kind of like, I don't know, comes to understand Vash and his way and his point of view. And I don't know, they just did it so well. They did it so well, because usually something like that is like useless. We all know about the like useless anime girls, right? We hate that. We don't like that in the streets. We don't like that in the streets. And Meryl and Millie are the farthest thing from useless ever. Like, they never get in the way in a sense that like makes it like, why are you here? You know, you're never asking, why is Meryl and Millie here? You're never asking that. And in fact, you can honestly argue that a lot of the show is shown through their perspective, and especially in the beginning. And because of that, I'm always gonna be on their side. I am always on their side. And they, you know, help Vash in their own way, in a way that's not like, you know, useless. They're not useless. So put it up for that. Bare minimum. I know. But I love Meryl. Like, Meryl and Millie really reached best girl status. They both did, which is why I'm so sad, especially Millie, because Millie is even more of a side character. So for Millie not to be in Stampede, they replaced her with Roberto in this case. And Roberto definitely acts more of like a foil to her, in a sense, to Meryl in Stampede, which is fine because that gives Meryl more character development. But I'm still just like, I miss Millie. I miss her so much. The only thing I wish about Meryl's character development in Stampede was that it was a little bit more, I don't know, there. Because what happens is basically, in the beginning, she's like, we gotta go chase after this man for the scoop. And her like superior is like, sure girl, if you say so. And then in the end, he's like, we gotta get out of here. And she's like, actually no, I want to stay. And so that kind of like switch in their like personalities or whatever is really cool, because that really tells a lot about her character development. But I just miss Millie. Damn, I just miss Millie. Also, her outfits. Oh, can we talk about the outfits now? Oh wait, I gotta talk about Vash first. Sorry. Oh, Vash, baby girl. When y'all said that Vash was baby girl, I thought y'all meant that in the same way that y'all call Spike Spiegel baby girl. You know, kind of ironically, kind of funny, kind of fits into the realm of pathetic anime men. You should totally go watch that video that I made about pathetic anime men. You should totally do that. You know, fits into that kind of realm. But Vash is on another level of baby girl. Like, he is the actual poster child of baby girl. Cause what this man whines and whimpers. Like, he straight up, like, he actually does whines and whimpers. You know all those memes about men whining and whimpering? That Vash does that unironically, especially in the OG, in the original. His character is so like, it was such a delightful surprise, because once again, all of the pictures and stuff that I have seen about Vash have always been like in this super serious, super cool pose, super cool guy, you know, type of pose, shonen protagonist pose, you know, all of that. It just makes him look so different, but a lot like Wolfwood. I was delightfully surprised to find out that he is like the exact opposite. What I love most and what I miss in Stampede is his goofiness. He is still very goofy. He is still very goofy in Stampede. Don't get me wrong. He's still very much so goofy, very much so baby girl. But how his goofiness and his silliness kind of goes into fighting. I think the fighting choreography in Stampede is more like actiony. I can only think of John Wick right now because John Wick just came out. More John Wick, more choreographed like fights and like looking cool and all that stuff. Whereas like the original Trigun, the fights are more like classical Western style. Like they look really cool, and it's about like more outwitting your opponent than it is about like actually like fighting or whatever. Vash does a lot of that in the original show. He does a lot of outwitting his opponent, and it's like really fun to watch him outwit his opponent, especially when Wolfwood gets, you know, put onto the line. That's really fun to see. And so in Stampede, we didn't get a whole lot of that, but that got made up for by all of the fight choreography and by like all of the little tricks and like camera angles and all that. It looked really good. It still looked really good. Like I said, it's two different vibes. So lastly, I kind of want to talk about the costume designs and the setting. I love a good Western. I really didn't think I did, but I love a good post-apocalyptic Western. Oh my God. Especially in the OG, their designs were so good. So good. Obviously, the statement piece with Vash's jacket, again, making him look like he's this badass fucking dude, and he's really just always in a silly, goofy mood. Always in a silly, goofy mood. Everyone is pretty much dressed pretty practical for like living in the desert, especially Millie and Meryl. They're the ones who are dressed the most practical for living in the desert, and I really enjoy that. The only one who like isn't dressed very practically is Wolfwood, but like you watch Stampede, then you know he doesn't really need to be dressed practical for in that type of conditions. But one thing in Stampede that I missed, that I kind of wish they would have like stuck to, is kind of those character designs in terms of having that practicality. God, I had a stroke, I'm sorry. Having that practicality of living in the desert because of the long flowy kind of poncho things that is good for keeping you cool and then also keeping you warm at night because it's a desert. In this new one, they were just kind of wearing like whatever, which is like, okay, they have really, really good character design, so I'm not too mad about it. Like, I still love the character designs. I still love Vash's design in Stampede, and I love Meryl's design in Stampede. I want to cosplay Meryl. That is how much I love her new design. So I'm not like too upset about it. It's just one of those things that's like clearly not the priority. The setting also wasn't really the priority. I noticed that a lot of the stories from like the original got condensed into one. So instead of like them going from town to town and then a bunch of things happening, it's all of these things happen, all of these plot points happening in one town, which is great for the sake of like condensing it, which is what Stampede had to do. But also, at the same time, realistically, makes me feel so bad for the townspeople. Because, like, I think the first town that they're in Stampede goes through, like, 3 major plot points all at once. And it's just, like, one after another, after another, after another. And I was like, I really feel bad for the people of this town. At that point, I would want to kill Vash myself, too. So I really like the idea of the old technology being like this really cool futuristic technology that is now considered old because it's just old by the standards of that world. I really, really like that. And I like that we get little hints of that. I love that in Stampede, they expand more upon that, because that is something that I was really missing in the original. They really push the like sci-fi levels in this one. And it's just like, if I could get y'all to like do both at the same time, and maybe that's what the manga is for, because I really guess we could just get the Western drama theme and the Western setting put into the sci-fi world of like Stampede. Literally perfect, but that's why I say you can't watch one without the other. I know a lot of people will be like, oh well, watch the original, or you don't have to watch the original, just watch the remake, or like whatever. I feel like they both complement each other really well. They are both just a retelling of the same story, and I believe that this is just a story that I could like rewatch over and over and over again. It's like Cinderella. What I'm trying to say is that Vash's baby girl princess. Yeah, I can rewatch the story being told over and over and over again, because it is such a classic story. Like the way it was presented to me in the original is so classic that I feel like if you were to make a remake or rendition of this, there is so much more to expand on, which is exactly what they did in Stampede. So I don't feel like it's like, oh, you don't have to watch the new one. You absolutely should watch the new one, and you should also watch the old one. The order in which you do it doesn't really matter. I watched the old one first and then the new one, and in doing so I got a lot more clarification on some things that I didn't understand in the old one. The new one is shorter, so if you're pressed on time, then I would say maybe start with the new one, and then watching the new one is going to make you want to watch the old one. That's actually what my friend said when she was talking about it, and I was like, you are so correct. Absolutely so correct. Anyway, but yeah, I think both do an amazing job of the setting. One thing that I do miss, and I know this is just a part of the whole Western thing that they didn't include in Stampede, is the music. The music and the audio cues, the little flute or clarinet or whatever it is playing that usually plays when something dramatic happens. I had that little tune stuck in my head for something like, I don't know the melody. Why did I even try to do that? I don't know the melody. But anyway, it's great, and it adds so much to the drama of everything. And like when you hear that, you get put into a vibe, and you're just like, oh yeah. Vash in Stampede is like so much more emo, which is funny because I think in the original Trigun, Vash really tries to hide his like emo-ness through humor. Vash does that in Stampede too, but not to the extent that he did in the original. Like the original, he was a goofball, and in this one he still keeps that personality of being a goofball, but it's more like he just straight out comes out the back. Here is my tragic anime backstory. Please believe me, I'm so baby girl teehee. So yes, obviously there are major differences between the original Trigun and Stampede. One is obviously longer and more of a slow burn. Stampede is more shorter and more sci-fi. Both I feel like are required reading. Honestly, they're required watching, required viewing, if you will. Neither of them are completely wholly like to the manga. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna watch the original because it's probably more like dedicated to the manga, there's actually stuff that they keep out, like a lot of Wolfwood's past they like completely changed for the sake of the show in the original, that they then expand upon that was in the original manga in Stampede. And a couple of other things too, characters here and there, characters that are in original Trigun that are not in Stampede, that were in Stampede, that were in the manga, etc, etc. It's just one of those things where it's like you should watch both and then read the manga like I am going to do. So, you know, let the brain rot just consume you. How about that? How about you stop talking about, oh, should I watch this? Should I watch that? And just let the brain rot consume you. It's what I did. And I'm so happy and so normal. Also, the original English dub is fucking goofy.
But I would never dream of doing anything like... I mean, good thinking. Very sensible idea, Mr. Cliff.
So anyway, thank you for indulging me in this. I don't talk about anime much on here, and I wish I did, because anime is literally, I watch a lot of anime. I consume a lot of anime, so it's really weird that I don't talk about anime more on here, mostly because a lot of anime that I watch are still ongoing, like One Piece and stuff, and so to have a show that kind of has a fully completed story for me to consume and then talk about, there's very few, like, people who are like dedicated anime YouTubers. I don't know how y'all do it, because most shows are ongoing, and to like that one dude who talks about One Piece every time there's a One Piece update, I salute you. I fucking salute you, because I don't know how you could do that. every week. Yeah. I mean, make no mistake, when Jujutsu Kaisen comes back, I will be talking about it because I've been reading the manga and there's so much going on there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you did, you are a real one. Feel free to comment down below. If you watch Trigun, if you're interested in watching Trigun, let me know. You know, we can have a little book talk, a little manga book club. Oh my God. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.